This is the 16th episode of the Mobuku Chronicles, and today it's August the 7th in the year 2012 AD. And there's a few things I want to go over first before I get into the continuing to describe and discuss the threefold Commonwealth. First of all, I want to clarify that this setting up of the social sphere in terms of the threefold Commonwealth is predicated upon the fact that we need a expression, or shall we say a yardstick, or some kind of I think it's an expression of the human organism expressed in the social organism. And I mentioned last time that we have a head and we have a set which comprises the central nervous system and everything to do with it, and we also have a thorax which contains the lungs and the heart and has to do with the breathing and the circulation of the blood, and we have a digestive metabolic limb system which is in our abdomen. And that if we were going to have a social organism that is, so to speak, an expression of that, then it has to be set up in such a fashion as I will repeat. But what I didn't clarify as much as I would like to have done last time is that the human organism, if it's to function healthily, those three systems, the central nervous system and the circulation of the blood and the breathing and the functioning of the lungs and the heart, and the digestive metabolic limb system, they have to all function in a coordinated fashion where they all do their respective, shall we say, functions in a manner which is functional and not dysfunctional, so that when we look at this expression of the human organism in the social organism, and I said last time that the head organization, the central nervous system, is expressed in the cultural sphere, which comprises the education, the arts, and the spiritual, religious life, and that the heart and lung and the circulation of the blood and the breathing is expressed in the governance. That is the life of rights and justice. And the economic sphere is an expression of the digestive metabolic limb system and is expressed in the economy, agriculture, and business. Now, what we have today with regard to that is that everything is subordinated to the economy. Everything. It's the political, business, and educational sphere are all subordinated to the financial system. That is to say, the politicians and the heads of state and universities and the CEOs and so forth and so on. They're all basically henchmen for the financial system, the bankers. So, with that in mind, I wanted to bring up some remarks that Jim Willie made in his last public commentary. You know, he publishes a newsletter, as I mentioned before, called the Golden Jackass, or rather it's actually called the Hat Trick Newsletter, or the Hat Trick Letter. And he also publishes a public commentary about once a month, and on various sites, and the site that you can find all of his stuff archived going back quite some time, as in the public sphere, is on financialsense.com, and you just go to the contributors link and then you look it up alphabetically, and there you have Jim Willie. Okay, this is what he has to. His last one, which came out on August the 2nd, is called Conflicts and Pressure Points. And I just want to highlight what he said at the very end of this, because it's a lengthy piece. All of his stuff is lengthy and thorough and very detailed, and essentially the last section is called Systemic Upheaval. Now, I've mentioned several times the phrase, the nation state smashing itself to pieces, and necessarily, because, as I said, when the functions of the economic system and the functions of the governance and the functions of the cultural sphere are all jumbled up, and they are not coordinated properly, and they're not separate, and they don't do their jobs in the manner befitting each of these spheres, then necessarily breakdown will occur. And Rudolf Steiner said well, 100 years ago approximately, that if this threefold Commonwealth was not implemented, the day would come when politics would succeed in destroying the economy, and that day is here, and has been actually for some time. But, you know, people are very much akin to the old ostrich putting its head in the sand and denying what's going on around it. And there's massive efforts all over in the mainstream media to, shall we say, not tell people what exactly is going on. The mainstream media is just a mouthpiece for the banking criminal elite, and it has been, they've been bought and paid for. I mean, David Rockefeller, the old man, said we could not have accomplished, you know, he's the Rockefeller family is a major stakeholder in J.P. Morgan Chase, and he said we could not have accomplished what we wanted to accomplish without the cooperation of, you know, Time and Washington Post and New York Times. He said that. So the mainstream media is also bought and paid for by the criminal banking elite. And so what we've been given is just a fairy tale, you know, a convenient fable over the past, well, 40 years at least, and going back even to earlier times. So this systemic upheaval that Jim Willie refers to is what I'm talking about, but he's looking at it from a different perspective. Now, I did end my last episode by saying that I would like to see, I issued a challenge where I said I would like to see people who are in positions of power and responsibility in the United States intelligence agencies, military, government, banking, education, whatever, to see if we could find any personalities there, men or women, who had any spine or backbone. Alright, so here's what Jim Willis has to say. If truth be known, about 5 years ago a remarkable fact came to light about fractures within most agencies, departments, and ruling bodies within the United States. Deep divisions grew as cracks spread across the power structure. That is Jim Willis' best description is of a division in all the agencies, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Treasury, the any particular FBI, Central Intelligence Agency, and so forth and so on. The judiciary also. Of a divide separating what are known in his term, Jim Willis, the loyalists and the constitutionalists. Now the loyalists, his description of them is that they are loyal to the criminal syndicates in power in all these different agencies, including the military. And the constitutionalists are those who wish to restore the Constitution as the law of the land, because it's been shredded. The U.S. Supreme Court has never been a defender and upholder of the Constitution for at least the last 100 years, and longer, in fact. And yet they swear to uphold and defend the Constitution, and that also goes for every senator and congressman who's ever made it into office. They all swear on the Bible, and all the presidents do, all the heads of the different federal bureaucracies all swear to uphold and defend the Constitution, and they have done nothing of the sort. It's even doubtful that most of them have ever read it. So, nevertheless, the U.S. Constitution has not been officially revoked or rescinded. It simply has not. Therefore, it is still the law of the land. So, the President of the United States and the Secretary of the Treasury and the Justices of the Supreme Court, they may put the Constitution in the shredder all they want. Nevertheless, it is still the law of the land. Okay, so we have these constitutionalists, and the loyalists have devotion and showing fealty to the syndicate in charge with the power of men pervading over the rule of law. Their calling card has been the endless wars and the ample flows of ill-gotten gains, where the underworld dominates the cancerous banking system replete with bond fraud and contract fraud perpetrated with impunity and official protection. The vast monopoly of contraband and its flows into financial structures, the extensive application of control mechanisms to protect the system and sustain it. The deep divisions are not resolvable without tumult and turmoil and upheaval. The hope and prayers for an orderly transition. This is Jim Willis. Without the loss of lives by innocent masses, nor the undue loss of wealth by the ignorant masses. Not going to happen.